Every guy wants abs, but most guys don't really understand how long it takes to go from 20% body fat down to 10% body fat. So, what I really want to explain in this video is that it's not an 8 week plan that's going to fix it all. In reality, it's a 3 to 6, maybe even longer month process if you actually want to look good and not just look skinny, because there is nothing worse putting all that effort in, dropping 10, 15 kilos, and just getting to the end of it feeling skinny. So we need to make sure everything is in place to make sure you get to the back end looking aesthetic, not just like a smaller version of your previous self. So today I'm going to kind of break down exactly what that timeline looks like, what mistake most guys make, and then actually how to look lean, aesthetic, rather than just being a smaller version, rather than just being lighter. So the first thing is actually setting a real goal. What are you trying to achieve? Because there's a big difference between just being lean and then being actually aesthetic, looking good. It's not just about dropping body weight. It's about keeping the muscle as you drop the body fat, staying strong, and ending up with a physique that not only has you feeling good, but also looking good, not just flat, not just smaller. So the key to this, the really overarching principle, is to stop thinking in weeks. It's not going to be done in 4 weeks. It's not going to be done in 6 weeks. You need to start thinking in months, thinking about losing body fat properly rather than just chucking off weight and then thinking that you failed because you're not seeing the abs. The truth is, you've just not put enough time in and you need to stick in for the longer game. So, the real timeline to go from 20% down to 10% body fat for most blokes, it's going to be 3 to 6 months, and that is a much more realistic target. Some will take closer to a year if your starting point is slightly higher body fat. But throughout that timeline, you need to be training hard. You need to be eating enough to make sure you're dropping body fat, but also maintaining that muscle and not just crash dieting. As you get through the process, you're going to get leaner and leaner, and it's going to show more and more as you drop more body fat. So you really don't want to rush the process. Get out the gates fast, sure, but then be patient towards the back end so that you're not just losing all the muscle that you've built. So the first phase, right? Let's say, for example, you are 90 kilos at 20% body fat. An ideal position for you to get down to that 10%, maybe you need to drop 10 to 15 kilos of body fat to really get that look that you're after. So that first 1 to 6 weeks, you can be aggressive. You can lose a lot of body fat because you're at a position where your food is pretty high, you've got a good amount of muscle, and you can afford to pull back fairly aggressively. So over that 1 to 6 weeks, week 1 to week 6, you might be looking to drop somewhere between 4 and 8 kilos. Be aggressive, get out of the gates. By the back end of this, though, you're not suddenly going to look awesome. And the reason is the first few kilos that you lose, you don't see massive visual changes, but your energy improves, your mood improves, and your confidence builds as well. You start feeling like you're working towards the position that you want to be. But don't expect your physique to be completely different after the first 4 to 5 weeks, okay? Once you've ticked that off, let's say you've got from 90 kilos and you've pulled down to say 84. This is where you get into the more difficult phase because you've ticked off that easy body fat loss. Now it's getting into the position that you've actually got to put work in. You're 6 kilos lighter, so at this point your maintenance calories is actually going to be lower than you started. So it is going to get more difficult. You do have to dig in a little bit to really get down to that 10% body fat marker. So you are leaner at the start of this position, but you're not shredded yet. And this is the point where I don't want you to tap out. I want you to really start to knuckle in, realign with where your goals are at, and then push on from there. Now, because of this is now getting longer term, say 6 to the 12 week mark. You're getting towards 3 months. You've got to put things in place that allow you to be consistent, and that is going to be habits and systems. You're going to be going out for meals. You're going to have social events. So you need to make sure that you've got these systems in place to be able to manage them so that week in, week out, you're actually dropping body fat and not just having a random week where your body weight spikes because you've not had those systems in place. Once you get to the 12-week mark, most guys will be getting pretty close to that 10% body fat marker if you have done it properly. Others that maybe start off at a slightly higher body fat percentage will need to push on for longer, maybe towards the 4, 5, even 6 month marker if you do have, say, 20 kilos to lose. So, what is the play here? How do you do it? First of all, I would split it up. So, making sure that you're doing a push for 8 weeks and then pulling back for a week so that you're splitting up that dieting phase, making sure that you're not just burning yourself into the ground and making sure your energy stays high. The second thing we need to do, whether this is long term or short term, is focus on an average rate of loss. So, if you are actually in a dieting phase, the first few weeks, sure, push on, drop quite a lot of body fat. After that, we want to settle into around about 1% of your body weight lost per week. If you do that, again, let's say you're 90 kilos and you drop in nearly a kilo a week, you're going to get to the end in a much better position because you will have held on to the muscle that you had before you started the diet, and your energy is going to be significantly better. So when you get down to that lower body fat percentage, you're still going to be training really good. You'll have held on to all of the muscle that you started with. If anything, you can have grown muscle, and that end physique that you end up at is going to be aesthetic as opposed to just skinny. So that is the phasing, right? You've got your timeline mapped out. What I want you to go and do is map out this timeline for yourself. How long are you going to be dieting for? When are your maintenance phases throughout that? And then how much body fat does that equal you need to drop per week? So go through this process. Do not crash diet and just end up skinny because you're going to be light, you're going to be have no muscle on you, and you're just going to think that 10-15 kilos that you just dropped is going to be a waste of time. This process, going through this, is going to massively shift your identity because you're going to be able to become someone that says that does what they actually say they're going to do, and then B, you're going to be really disciplined by the end of this. You're going to be able to stick to something for the long term, and you're going to have the systems in place that just allow you to continue progressing and not let any of the speed bumps like socials and holidays actually get in the way of your progress. But also, you'll still be able to go out and enjoy those. So obviously, I take people through this on a daily basis, setting out the timelines, setting out the calories, setting out the rate of loss. So you've effectively got a PT in your pocket ready for you whenever you need them. If you're going to be interested in one-to-one coaching like this, where we can guarantee you to get down to that 10% body fat marker, click the link below that's in the description. I'll walk you through exactly how the process looks. And if it sounds good for you, we'll crack on with these goals.